Hello and welcome. I'm going to be talking about breaking the cycle, 3 reasons why entrepreneurs stay stuck and what you can do about it. And in this, I'm going to give you some examples of things that I see that are really common that people get stuck in. Some of them you may relate to, some you may not. You may relate to all three. A lot of us do. And then I'm also going to go through the steps that you can take. Some of it you'll be able to do on your own. Some of it's helpful to have some help with. I'll go through those at the end and then also go through some possible next steps for you. This is something that I've done myself, and this is being stuck in old beliefs. So growing up, if you've been around me, you've heard a lot about my story. I talk about my dad a lot and how it was very much like walking on eggshells. You didn't know if he was going to get upset with me about, and literally it was just about being me and playing and doing what little girls do and then getting in trouble. And so I learned at a really early age that it was better to stay small, to stay safe, stay quiet, and really don't want to disrupt anything. Otherwise, I would get in trouble. This pattern, it was a subconscious pattern developed, and I took it with me. I took it with me into adulthood. It came with me in my marriage. It came with me in my relationships, even with my kids, and especially showed up in my business. And so I was being careful in my business. I was trying to be someone else that I really wasn't, out of that walking on eggshells pattern. And one of the things that I see with entrepreneurs is we get attached to these old beliefs, these beliefs that we developed a long time ago. And that's how we end up being frustrated in our business. Something that I've noticed recently with new clients is there are a few people that have been like frustrated with where they've been or how they've been being, if that makes sense. They're attached to that old energy pattern, and it's gotten them success. So it's almost like it's acted as a motivator. It's motivated them to take action or to try and not be something. If you've ever tried to not be something and you tend to go do the opposite thing, that's one of the patterns I see. And that's something that I was doing. I was trying not to upset anyone. And I also see people that are trying not to put themselves out there so they'll be criticized, or they're avoiding. So their action is based in avoidance. And what happens subconsciously when you do that, it's not aligned with your true self. Your true self is not like that. And so it can be exhausting. It can feel like you are pushing a boulder up a hill, and it's why we see inconsistent results. So this pattern, this being attached to old beliefs, can result in procrastination. It can be inconsistency. It can lead to all kinds of problems that show up in your business, but it can also see repetitive patterns in relationships. Maybe the dynamics of things are a little bit not where you would like them to be. So it can show up in all kinds of ways. And that's one of the things that I have been noticing lately more than not, and how these people are coming because they're recognizing that they have this way of being and they don't want to do it anymore. They want something different. They recognize it. They don't want to be in that place anymore. So they're ready to shift how that pattern shows up. And I'll go through the steps of doing that at the end. So that's number one. The second reason I see entrepreneurs staying stuck is people pleasing. So this one I see a lot. And I can't even tell you how common it is. And there's different reasons behind it. So a sign that I know that people pleasing is happening is their schedules are overwhelming. They're so full, they don't have room for their own business. Their conversations go over time. Maybe if they're meeting with people one-on-one, instead of an hour, they're spending an hour and a half, or instead of a short phone call, it ends up being much longer, or they're volunteering. And not that volunteering is bad, it's not, but they're volunteering and saying yes to everything. And so what happens with people pleasing when people do this is it creates a guilt cycle. And the guilt cycle is, I've been in this one too, by the way. So as I know from personal experience, it's like you have this guilt about working your business because you feel guilty when it's your personal time, you're with your family, you're with your friends or whatever, and you have guilt if you step into your business and do it then. You also have guilt when you don't. So if you take time off, you feel guilty because you're not where you want to be in your business. And you're not where you want to be in your business a lot of times because you're saying yes to so many things, because your boundaries are all wonky. And it interferes with what you really want. And that's something, it's a deep thing. I know for me, there was a pattern. By the way, we have lots of patterns. So this is one I worked on really early in my career. And it was really life-changing because I had a belief that you couldn't make money and have a healthy relationship. And that was due to the way I grew up, and parents were divorced, my grandparents were divorced, and I saw how much my dad worked. He was a workaholic. He was a farmer. He really didn't have a choice. You can't take vacations when you're a farmer, really, unless you have people that can be there. And I just saw that, and then I saw the effects of him not being there and how that affected the family. And so there was this pattern that developed for me that if I was successful, it would affect my family and that my whole life would fall apart. And I saw it in other family members. Like, this was really a pattern. When I was able to shift that, it changed everything. Money started coming in more easily. It wasn't an interference. I was able to set clear boundaries. So, and that guilt cycle can really hold you back. Guilt is not where you want to be because it can really be consuming, and it can be really draining if this is going on and you're trying to build a business. It can really hold you back. So that's something that if that's showing up for you, you definitely want to work on it. I'm thinking about also a client who was dealing with this that I worked with earlier in the year. And she was a yes to everything, very successful in what she was doing, and realtor. And she was saying yes, and she was working with a team. And I think it was almost like a volunteer kind of thing. I think she got paid a little bit, but it wasn't a lot. And it was just so draining, but she kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it. And then she went through one of my group programs. And I remember the day, I think it was like on session 2 or 3, that she said she learned that no was a complete sentence. And that was really life-changing for her. And since then, she's blown past her goals and has really had a lot of business coming in because she's no longer feeling all that heavy guilt about saying no to things. So people pleasing is number two. The third thing is trust. Okay, now this one's a biggie. This was a big lesson for me too. Trust can affect your ability to grow your business and hire a team, because, and just the logical piece of that, when I see people that want to grow and scale their business, but they're hiring people and then they like, oh, they're not the right person, then they let them go, and they kind of go back and forth on that team part. Trust is usually at play there. But also the deeper thing that I learned is it's so important to first trust yourself. And when you can trust yourself, and really that inner knowing that you have inside, that you're making the right decisions for you, that you don't have to go out and follow all the different things that other people are doing, that your path is your path and it's right for you, that is a game changer. And otherwise, what we end up doing, and I've done this, is we end up chasing a lot of shiny objects. And we look at what other people are doing and think, oh, they're successful, I'll go down this road and do that. But something about it isn't aligned with us, and we do it anyway, and then we end up not feeling right about it, or it doesn't work. And there's pieces of that are really important, and it has to do with trusting your own inner knowing. And it's really, that's really huge. And it takes, I think that's probably one thing that I feel like most people struggle with the most, is that trusting themselves. Because to trust yourself, you really have to love yourself. You have to accept yourself. There's so many other deeper things around that. And if you're a human in general, if you are a human, you grew up and you had a lot of subconscious patterns and things, because you're human, and that's what we are. So all these beliefs and these programs and things that we're born into, some of them may be yours, some of them may be generational or possible past lives. There's all kinds of things that come into play with that can affect how you're being. So that trust in yourself is really, really an important one. And when you do that, when you learn to do that, that's when you can really grow your business on a bigger and deeper level. So those are the things that people do that are to stay stuck. Now I want to talk about what you can do about it. And I'll give you a few steps. The first thing is you want to awaken your subconscious patterns. And what I mean by that is really honing into what's the deeper problem. So if you're struggling with procrastination, let's say that's it. You want to ask yourself, how has procrastination been a problem for me? And go deeper. Like, how has it been a problem? How has it been a problem? And as you drill that down, you should get into something deeper. Because I know my experience with procrastination specifically, I remember going through some deeper subconscious work with one of my coaches, and we were focused on relationships. And what I found is within a few days, I was noticing I'm not procrastinating as much in my business after working on relationships. So it's really profound how one area can affect the other. They're related. There's no disconnect. You are a whole person. You can't separate the two. So really digging into what specifically the problem is the first step. Step 2 is locate the root cause. So where did it occur? It may be deeper than you think. It may be about something that you don't even think is related. I'll just give you a quick example. I was working with a client who had a weight loss transformation, huge amount of weight loss, decided to be a weight loss coach. And she was in this vicious cycle of beating herself up about going back into these old patterns and overeating, and then beating herself up for a few days, and then not feeling like she was supposed to be coaching people because of all of that. And what we found in one of our sessions was she had created a pattern from when she was really little. Her mom and her aunt would take her out to celebrate whenever she had good grades. And their celebration was, it sounds like carnival food. So like they go get, snow cones and funnel cakes. And so she had made an association between food and fun. Like you can't have fun and eat good food. So her whole strategy subconsciously was working against her because of this pattern that she had developed. So when we were able to discover what that was, because it was a fun memory. It wasn't traumatic. It was fun. But because we discovered where it came from, and then we're able to go in to shift that the way she held it, she no longer did it. And literally she was able to go on trips and go eat an ice cream cone and then get right back on her program. And it wasn't a big deal. And now she was able to retire from her teaching job, and she's coaching full time now. So I loved that because it's just an example of, it may not be where it come from, where you think. So that can be tricky, but ask yourself, where else does it occur? Because usually if it shows up in one area, it may be in another. Okay. Third thing is ignite transformation. And this step is about reframing how you held the problem. So however you held that thing, reframing it in a way so that you are taking with you the things that you learned from it, the things that can inspire you from it. It's a different way of thinking. So you may be thinking, oh my gosh, I can't possibly think of what was good about blah, blah, blah thing. But there are things that we can learn. There are things and ways that we know that can move us forward. And there's so many examples of people who have overcome really horrible circumstances and then came out on the other side. So think of it like that. So really reframing the situation so that you can leave that thing back here, and then it's like dropping baggage. It's like you got a backpack of trauma and crap on your back, and you just get to let go of it, and then you can move forward much, much faster. Okay. Fourth is generating a new energy. And I like to think of this as like, I'll give you another analogy, is like a computer. And when your computer gets a virus, it slows down and it's hard to open up pages. It's just slow moving. And when you can clear all that, you're then able to upload a new software. So that generating a new energy is like uploading a new software. And that is where you can really get results fast. I'm thinking about another client that I worked with where when we did this, it's really like embodying the energy of what you want to be, the actions that you want to take. And when we did this with her, it was immediate. She texted me after, and I remember her saying, I'm already seeing opportunities that I didn't see before. She's noticing things in her business. She was wanting to scale and hadn't been able to. she ended up hiring like 3 people within a couple of weeks, and her business sales increased 67% within 90 days. It was huge. And that's something I see a lot when we are able to shift these old energy patterns. It's huge for helping us move forward. Think about how you can step into being that new energy. And then the 5th step is nurturing. And the nurture part is, it's really about support and integration and having that person or a way to check in and notice when these old energy patterns show up and how they're showing up, and being able to shift that, like being able to recognize it and then shift your way around it. Because once you start doing this work, you'll start noticing things. And I'll say this because in the beginning, I would get frustrated because I literally thought, oh, I'll just go to one of these things and then I'll be fixed. Literally thought I was going to be fixed after one thing. And it doesn't work that way. And I used to get frustrated. I get frustrated if I saw like a pattern show up where maybe I didn't see it before and I didn't recognize it. Because like I said, it shows up in relationships, and it also shows up in business, and it shows up in little ways that maybe you didn't even notice. So paying attention to those things, once you're able to recognize them, and I almost get excited. There will be a moment of, darn, there it is again. But there's also an excitement of, oh, now I caught it. Now I caught it, and now I can be aware and I can begin to shift that. Also, I have a mastermind coming up. And if you want support in some way, you can message me and I can tell you a little bit more about the mastermind. I'm not going to go into it a whole lot today, but I'll just really briefly say during the 12-month mastermind, we're going to talk about your confidence and help you with your decision making so that you're not second guessing yourself. We are definitely going to be working on your sales so that they come in with greater ease and focus, reframing the way you see challenges, and you'll be able to respond in ways in a different way, like in a calm way, in a relaxed way, without that guilt or shame weighing you down. And we'll work on the procrastination, confidence, and really get clear on what your vision is for yourself and blow past those goals. So if that's something that interests you, you can reach out to me and I will give you more details.